The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Radio Scotland.
Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland with me, Liam McLeod, on Monday the 2nd of October 2023. Hope you had a good weekend. One man who didn't was Michael Beale, who was sacked by Rangers on Sunday evening after just 11 months in charge at Ibrox, with Saturday's 3-1 home defeat to Aberdeen the final straw for the supporters, but most notably and most importantly, the board. And they're now looking for their fifth new manager since promotion in 2016. They sit third in the Premiership, 7 points adrift of the leader Celtic, with unbeaten St Mirren in between them. Rangers go to Paisley in their next league game. They've got European action before that as well, of course. Only Paul Le Guen and Pedro Caixinha had shorter stints in charge, with Beale lasting 307 days and just 43 matches, although his win percentage was 72%. He lost just 8 of those 43 games, but crucially, 3 of them have come in the first 7 league matches of this season, plus that Champions League humbling in Eindhoven. Joining me to discuss it all is 9-time major trophy winner at Ibrox, Neil McCann. Neil, hello, how are you?
I'm good, Liam. I'm good. Interesting weekend of football. So, I was probably on a Monday morning, like everyone else, getting my head into the media and realising the magnitude of what happened across at Ibrox with Aberdeen on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, it was an excellent Aberdeen performance. They rode their luck a little bit in the early stages of the game, but from about 25, 30 minutes onwards, they were, arguably the better side. I know Michael Beale felt that wasn't the case. But I guess, Neil, 4 wins, 4 clean sheets going into that one, it kind of eased the pressure slightly, but it was always lurking in the background, wasn't it, in the wake of particularly the losses to PSV and to Celtic.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, Liam. I think that the result at the weekend was the tipping point. Performances have not been sparkling. I think Michael has come out and said that. The fans certainly let Michael and the team know on even performances where they were winning games that they were looking for more. I think the comments afterwards, after the game on Saturday from Michael, were almost comments made from a man that might have understood his fate. Whether he'd been told or not, I think he probably knew that result, the reaction from the support, suggested that there was a serious sting in the tail would come from a defeat against Aberdeen. You know as well as I do, everybody in Scottish football knows as a Rangers man, Aberdeen are tucked in there nicely behind Celtic for a team that you don't want to lose to. It goes back, it's a fixture I really enjoy playing in, being involved in, but it's not one that you wanted to be on the wrong side of a result. And I think that Michael's recruitment this year has been scrutinised by all of us, really. I think you can probably extend a bit of time to players who are coming into a new culture, a new environment, and the shock value of that, Liam. Guys like Danilo and Dessar and coming in, Lammers, all these boys are coming in with probably full of anticipation, excitement, and then when you're thrown into that type of environment where demand is so high and criticism comes so quickly, if you're not getting the results or not performing the way you should, then that can be a bit of a shock. So I think there was a bit of grace there, but over the last few games, I think we were all of the opinion that the boys needed to step up, get better performances, show why they were brought to the club, and Michael would be included in that. So, yeah, it's been a tough time because nobody likes to see. I've been in that position myself, Liam, where you lose a job. As a manager, you trust your work that you're doing, ultimately. But it's not nice to see someone losing a job.
I was chatting during the match, during the commentary on Saturday with Kenny Miller, who was watching on with me. Cyril Dessers takes a lot of stick. He's probably a good example of a guy who's come into the club and hasn't hit the ground running. And when you're the number 9 at Rangers, or any big club really, but number 9 at Rangers, you have to hit the ground running. You look at Chris Boyd, scored a hat-trick in his debut, scored 7 goals in his first 4 games. Kenny himself scored 10 in his first 14. Morelos got 8 in his first 9, Jelavic 10 in his first 14, even Cholak last year had 11 goals by this point. So the pressure is on Dessers to deliver. If he delivers, then Beale might well still be in a job, and he'll know that himself because he's spurned a big chance or two at the weekend, as well as a couple of his teammates.
Without question, I actually felt for the boy at one point where Aberdeen were trying to, Rangers were trying to break through. Aberdeen stole the ball, and there was a shot of Dessers with his shirt over his head. And I've seen him several times of late sitting behind the front row of the bench, and his head's in his hands, and he'll be feeling the heat. You're right, Liam. I think as a centre forward at Rangers, you will always feel the pressure if you're not scoring freely, regularly, or making a real impact at the front line. And I think he's struggled just taking in the game at the weekend. I think had he taken a chance at the weekend, it came his way. I think Sima, Cifuentes, they take those chances, and I think Michael Beale is absolutely still in a job, without question. But as a centre forward, he spoke to Kenny at the weekend, and he's been brilliant with all his clubs that he's played at, including the national team, in terms of getting goals. There's a huge responsibility not only to score goals, but to provide this is where it comes down to opinions on the recruitment that Rangers have made. I'm not quite sure what Cyril's best attribute is. He's not a target man. He looks like he's struggling to show that he's a natural goal scorer, a poacher. Is he a link man? Is he better in a 2? Is he better in a 1? As a lone striker? I think we're yet to discover what that is. Only Michael and his recruitment team would be able to give us a definitive answer of what their belief of Dessers would be. I think if asking the boy himself, what would you like, would be great information, because then we'll be allowed to understand that if he's used to playing as a 2 or as a 1 or a 1 in behind him, then we might understand maybe why it's not coming off, but he's not taking enough of his chances, and that can happen to a guy who's low in confidence because there's so much responsibility. But I think the guys around him need to share that brunt as well, Liam.
I was going to say, Neil, that one of the things that's worked against Michael Beale here, apart from results, is the amount of money that's been spent on this squad, and they needed that to pay dividends almost immediately. And it hasn't, and we're not sure when it's going to click for Rangers.
No, and that's a concern. 7 points now, sitting tucked in behind St Mirren, who have gone unbeaten. Danilo, again, another boy I felt sorry for, just gets his goal against St Johnstone, suffers a fracture to his face. You've got Sima, who, again, I'm not quite sure, he's a centre forward, he's a wide player. Danilo, the same. You've got Big Sam Lammers. Is he a number 9 in waiting? Is he a 10? We don't know, Liam. And I think when you're doing recruitment, you have to pick players who are going to fit a system that you believe is going to work. And Michael was very rigid, along with Steven Gerrard, during that 55, where it was a rigid system. It worked home and away in Europe. It had a different function in terms of how it was deployed. It was deeper and counter-attack in Europe away from home. At home it was more advanced, it was more aggressive, but it was essentially a 4-3-3. I know Michael's chopped and changed a wee bit. And when he's doing recruitment, you're sort of picking players that can do that sort of formation, but he'd said that he might want a bit of fluidity, maybe going to a 3, maybe playing with a 3-4-3 possibly. But essentially what boils down to whether your recruitment's good or not is if these players perform. And so far, I don't think they've shown why they were brought to the club. But that could be a dual thing. It might be a wee bit of miscommunication. It might be that tactically the game's changing. Maybe personnel has changed too many times. But excuses can be brought up. But ultimately, you must win games. Look at Celtic. Look at across the city there, where I don't think Celtic have caught fire under Brendan Rodgers just yet. He said it himself. He's absolutely said it himself. They've got injuries, but they're still finding a way to win games. 97 minutes at the weekend, Matt Riley comes up with a goal.
Yeah, it was a huge moment, wasn't it? We're talking about sliding door moments, even this early in the season.
Yes.
The Rangers supporters were getting to get excited when Blair Spittle scored that equaliser. Matt O'Reilly pops up, knocks the stuffing out of them, knocks the stuffing out of Motherwell, and extends Celtic's lead in the end of the day at the top of the league.
Yeah, 100%. And that, I mean, it's sitting in that dressing room, or whatever dressing room you are as a Rangers player. Even go back to my time, not exactly black and white, Liam, but it's a number of years ago now. But
Yeah.
it's the same feeling. You want to know if Celtic were playing the day before, or the morning kickoff or an early kickoff, and you're playing afterwards. You are absolutely aware of that result. Now, it can either lift you or boost you on, or it can think, right. Maybe heap a wee bit more pressure on to think, right, they've won today. We need to go and we absolutely need to win here. We can't lose any ground. So it fired you up in a different type of way, but nonetheless, always knowing what your rivals are doing, your greatest rivals are doing, should be a catalyst to what you do on the pitch. Of course, the self-professionalism should mean that the demand is there anyway to win, but that added pressure of what was going on right now, guys not performing, dropping points, I think that has absolutely played a part in not only the club's choice of letting Michael go and his staff go, but also the fans. The big thing at the weekend, which was telling for me, was how many blue seats were empty towards the latter stages of that game. That was quite alarming. Not the guys going around the pitch after the game, because we saw that against Celtic, that the team went round and got some heavy abuse, which was brave in a way. Michael went down the tunnel. He did it again at the weekend. It's the movement of your support leaving. It's the amount of supporters who are saying they don't like how Rangers are playing. They don't see any direct style of play, aggression in their play, a real will to win for the jersey, and that, I think, was probably the defining moment at the weekend that the board decided to take action.
Stephen Davis is heading up the interim management team. Alec Ray is in there as well. I think they were in at the training centre today, in amongst the players. Michael Beale released a statement in social media last night. He's called for unity. He's called for everyone to get behind Stephen Davis, that he maintains a strong belief in the players that are there and that there's still loads to play for this season. And there is. Of course, they made it through to the League Cup semis last week. They've started their Europa League group with a victory against a La Liga team. Is there any way that Michael Beale could be sitting there feeling a little bit aggrieved about this decision? 92 points they finished on last season. Only 3 times, I think, in the last 12 campaigns, that wouldn't have been enough to win the league. They were unfortunate in that Celtic were so good last season. He won 12 of his first 14 before losing the League Cup final. There were those 2 bitter disappointments at Hampden last term. But when you look at, for example, Ange Postecoglou coming into Celtic, Neil, I think we talked about this beforehand, comes into Celtic, it takes a while to get going. I know Beale had been in there for almost a year, but this is a new team. Should he have been given more time? Or was this ultimately the decision that the Rangers board had to come to?
I think as a manager, you're always looking for more time when the times are tough. There has to be a belief in you as a person that you understand what's happening and you can actually positively change the fortunes if they're on the downturn. I can understand if Michael would feel aggrieved because it's very early in the season. We're 7 games in or 8 games in, plus all the European games. I think as a manager, you're thinking, right, I'm not hitting the panic button, and you don't want your board to hit the panic button. Possibly, what I would say is, and those figures that those stats are quite impressive to some degree. I think you can always put stats up against anything, and you can make them look how positively or negatively as you like. But when it boils down to it, Liam, you're judged on big games, particularly at Rangers. I would imagine. I've not been on the coaching staff at Rangers.
I thought you were about to channel your inner Eb Scovdale there when you were talking about statistics and his infamous quote, which we won't repeat here. But yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you're saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think big games. I think when people are looking back and saying, right, what big games did Michael win when they needed to win? And I know that's been levelled at him, but I believe Michael will sit back and say, look, I believe in these guys will come good in recruitment. I believe I would have got stronger at the boys over the time to bed into the team. But unfortunately, at Rangers Football Club, that time can become very, very short if you're not hitting the right notes. Now, if the performances were great and these guys were gunning and they were scoring goals and they were showing why they were brought to Rangers, but they maybe had slipped up a couple of times, I believe that maybe the time would have been given. But there's been too many things not clicking. And that's the reason why Michael has left his post.
It's our understanding that Rangers are willing to take their time over the next appointment. So Stephen Davis is an interim charge for the game in Cyprus against Stade Limassol, their matchday 2 game in the Europa League. And that will be the St Mirren game as well. And then I suppose there's this natural break for the international window as well. So they've got that time to try and sort out what they're going to do next. But Neil, there's even pressure on the interim team here, isn't there? Because Stephen Davis will want to impress. This is a great opportunity for him. He knows the club inside out. But he's still going to be under immense pressure in these games.
Well, the team are under immense pressure. And Stephen has got to, I think he's got to show leadership qualities. But it's the boys on the pitch that need to do that.
Well, let's hear a little bit from someone who knows Stephen Davis really well. It's his former midfield teammate, Kevin Thompson, who told us that the Northern Ireland captain will adapt well to this role.
He's a great lad, Davo. Had a brilliant career. Real top man, a real intelligent lad, thoughtful. I think he's not a loud person in the changing room. He's very articulate, he's well spoken, and I think when he speaks people will listen. I'm pretty sure he'll be relishing it, he'll be excited, he'll have butterflies in his belly. I'm sure he'll be disappointed for Michael and the staff because he's like us all, he'll care. But I'm sure he'll be looking forward to the challenge. I'm pretty sure it'll be a short-term one until the club get the right person. But stranger things have happened. They could go in there and set some fire and get the team performing well. And before you know it, you just never know what can happen. So it's a funny old game, football, as they say. I'm sure him and the staff that have went alongside him will enjoy the challenge. Massive game on Thursday night, obviously over in Cyprus, and then another one followed by St Mirren. So the games come thick and fast. They need to make sure that the team go to the well. There's a resilience there and certainly reaction, because they need to start winning games of football. So
Kevin Thompson there talking about Stephen Davis. So what of the runners and riders for the eventual long-term replacement for Michael Beale? Rangers, of course, weren't a club that sacked their managers. It's only kind of been in recent years where they have had to oust managers. Van Bronckhorst, another a former teammate of yours, Neil, but another former Ibrox teammate has been linked heavily with the job today. I think he's the bookies' favourite just now, Kevin Muscat. He's being mentioned in dispatches. He replaced his fellow Aussie Ange Postecoglou at Yokohama. He won the J-League with them. He's battling to retain that right now. He won the Super Cup this year as well. I mean, he has that familiarity with the club, albeit I think he was just there for a year or so. But his predecessor at Yokohama hasn't done too badly since swapping the Japanese League for Scotland a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I know Muskie well. Had a great time with him at Rangers. A very intense character. And everybody, the first thing about Muscat when he was playing was he was physical, aggressive, overly sometimes, and being kind to him. But I tell you something about Muscat, Liam. He was actually a very, very good footballer and knew the game inside out. He had a steel about him as a character, a winning mentality, which was absolutely evident as soon as he walked in the door to train with us. We were already a group that were fired anyway. I mean, our training sessions were intense. And this is a wee bit about the game. Is I look at the group of players that's there just now, there seems to be a lack of intensity and bite in the Rangers team right now. As a group, I'm not talking about individuals or one or two. I'm talking about as a group. There's a lack of power and presence for me right now. And I think the one thing about Muscat, Kevin Muscat getting spoken about the job is that he's not new into management. He's not a rookie. He's got titles under his belt. Now, whether people want to try and play down what titles he's won is up to them. But it's still winning titles. It's knowing how to win things. When you get to the business end of a season, how's he done? He's done it. He's got his team over the line. As a character, I think would be a brilliant acquisition. I don't know personally how he works on the training field because I've not worked with him. I've not seen him work. But as a presence, he gets Scottish football. He understands the league. He understands the intensity, the rivalry. How to get the job done. He was with us when we won the treble. So all those ingredients for me as a tick box exercise, that's there. Then is he able to lead? I think he is, because personality wise it fits. He'll go through the process. I'd be surprised if he didn't go through the process and get interviewed. And I think that's when Kevin then needs to put himself across to the board and say, I'm the right man for the job this time. I'm the right choice. But I would have no hesitation as a person, as a personality, and all those qualities that I spoke about, thinking that Kevin would absolutely be in for a great shout of being the next Rangers manager.
Pascal Jansen's been mentioned. He led AZ to the Conference League semis last season, of course. So he put 7 unanswered goals past Dundee United, or at least his team did in the qualifiers for that tournament last season. Graham Potter, Jesse Marsh, Gennaro Gattuso, another who knows the club, Knutson, Bielsa, Lampard, Derek McInnes mentioned as well. Neil Lennon's listed as 250 to 1. I think we could probably rule that one.
Yeah, I'll keep my money in my pocket with that one.
Yeah. But I mean, Derek McInnes, another former teammate and someone who knows Rangers. And I just wonder if the Willie Wonty tug of war in 2017 when he was at Aberdeen manager will work against him on this occasion. But would he be someone who would be a realistic candidate?
I think absolutely, yeah. I was in the Dundee job at the time when Derek, and we played against each other. And I remember actually it was around about that time he was getting spoken about the Rangers job, and I fully expected Derek to go, but he clearly thought he'd unfinished business at Aberdeen, or maybe it just wasn't quite right. All the things just didn't line up for him in order to take that job. I think if he was offered it now, it would be really hard for him to turn down. Kilmarnock, I think he's shown that this season he's mid-table. He feels that as a group of players, his recruitment's been good down there, that he doesn't actually feel he's been far away from anyone. Although he's lost some of those games, he feels that nobody's really run over the top of him. He's got a great result already against Rangers at the start of the season and Celtic. So there's absolutely potential there. Again, another man that knows Scottish football inside out. He's got a connection to the club. So yeah, I'm not trying to sell Kilmarnock's manager across to Ibrox, but as a candidate, yeah, he's well worthy of being on that list. All the other guys that you mentioned there, I think this job is still a huge job. The Rangers job is an enormous job. It's a club that comes with great prestige and history, and potential. And that is the word potential right now. You're taking over a job where it's suffering a wee bit. It's not in a good place, and it needs lifted. And all these guys you mentioned have to have an immediate quality, which is lift an existing group of players, Liam. I think Derek absolutely could do that. I'm not saying any of the other guys couldn't. Guys like Muscat, you need somebody to walk into the dressing room and immediately have an impact. That's what you have to do. I've been an interim before. I've walked into a new group of players when they've been low, and the first thing you have to do is look at that existing players and say, can I impact that group of guys? So all the boys who are on the list right now need to sit in front of that board and say, right, I'm the man for the job. It's not for the future, because why that guy needs to get that job right now is for the immediate. And then, of course, start looking forward. And that goes back to the recruitment we spoke about earlier. The recruitment shouldn't have been, let's build a team for Champions League in 2-3 years' time. The recruitment this season should have been, we need plug-in guys that know this league, get the domestically, get the job done, go and win the title back from Celtic, and then look forward to European competition, which is a big thing, Champions League football. So the guys I've mentioned have all got good pedigrees, good names in the game. And now it's about sitting around the table and saying, right, can this guy walk into Ibrox and have an impact immediately? Because 7 points right now can't go to 10, can't stretch, because then it's game over. As it stands right now, Rangers can win a treble. And it's early enough, because Celtic, I don't think, are firing right now. It's early enough in the season to make an impact and get a League Cup, which, of course, they're in the semi-final right now. They've got a lot of work to do there. But they're in a position of that they can turn things around, but the man needs to make an impact quickly and get a staff around him as well, Liam, because he can't go as a lone wolf here. I know Ange Postecoglou went in as a lone wolf, but immediately what he done was have that presence to a group of players, and then make sure that the surrounding staff understood the job that he was demanding of them and the players.
Interesting stuff. Neil McCann, thank you very much for joining us on the Scottish Football Podcast. Rangers looking for a new manager. For the very latest on this story and all the others, check the website bbc.co.uk/sportscotland. Stick it in your favourites if you haven't done that already. Remember to subscribe to the podcast. Rangers off to Cyprus in their Europa League group, and that forms part of Sports Sound's European coverage this week, starting on Wednesday with Celtic Lazio on matchday 2 in the Champions League, 8 p.m. kickoff in Glasgow. Then on Thursday, Rangers are at Aris Limassol with a 5:45 p.m. start before Aberdeen host Hoyeko Helsinki. That's how you pronounce it. A guy in Finland told me that once. 8 p.m. kickoff in the Conference League for that one. And remember, you can catch all the weekend's Premiership goals on Goals Plus on the iPlayer. Sports Scene's also available there if you want to hear Neil's forensic take on it all, and if you missed it on Saturday evening. We'll be back with another Scottish Football podcast on Tuesday. Bye for now.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Radio Scotland.